So mountain bike jibbing or mountain bike freestyle is one of the hottest things to be doing in the woods right now. Getting creative with nature, that's what it's all about. But can you do it on your e-bike? Well, I'm joined today with Tom Cardy. We're gonna run you through our bikes and the setup tips that we do to go jibbing. Right, so Tom, for our viewers that don't know, what the hell is jibbing or mountain bike freestyle?
Jibbing is basically a creative influence which has come from the likes of BMX, skateboarding, snowboarding, and it's now followed onto mountain bikes and e-bikes. It's getting creative in the woods.
So it's kind of like those BMX kind of moves that we see in those movies. We're doing them on mountain bikes. I know like both of us have come from a BMX and mountain bike dirt jump background and sort of adapted our bikes to suit the sort of tricks we're doing.
Yeah.
Now the way we set up our bikes for a bit of freestyle or jib action is definitely going to differ to how you're going to ride them out in your regular trails. Now I've made a load of adjustments to my bike and I know Tom has too. Run us through a few setup tips that you use, Tom.
First thing that I do is I pump the tyres up really hard because it resembles a dirt jump bike, what I'm used to. It also reduces any chance of the tyre deforming or rolling, makes the bike more predictable. And if you do happen to case or land on something a bit hard, then it protects your rim, prevents any dinks or dents.
What sort of pressure are we talking there?
I run about 65 to 70 PSI on mine, so pretty
big,
tough.
Big, yeah. I tend to go a little bit under that, a minimum of 40 for the bigger stuff. Again, it's for all those reasons that Tom's mentioned. One thing I like to do as well is drop my seat out of the way, because if you are doing these jumps, you definitely don't want to get tangled in the seat. But one thing to think about if you're getting a bit more advanced on these tricks is about seat height, because of all that no-handed kind of things, you actually need that seat there to pinch, especially for bar spins. No-handers, that seat is definitely vital. But if you're learning, just get it low and out of the way.
The next thing I would do, again resembling or coming from the dirt jump world, is stiffen your suspension up. Again, it increases predictability. Most importantly, it gives you the option to pump harder because you're not losing all your energy. All your movements are very direct through the tyres, through the suspension, whereas if it's soft, then it's just very saggy.
Going away, and rebound as well, I think that's something to touch on.
Definitely.
I tend to run mine a little bit slower than I would do for regular trail ride, and I think when you come into those big hits, sometimes it's quite easy for the bike to buck quite violently, especially on drop-offs and things. You can get quite a lot of bounce, so slowing that rebound down enough to give you a little pop, but not like a pogo stick, is something definitely to think about. And I think protection. What would you recommend?
Pedals are actually
pedals,
flat pedals.
Yeah, if you're clips, for sure.
But while we're talking about pedals in that area, Shim Pads are definite, because most likely if you're jibbing, you're going to slip a pedal and have a shindig.
I've been there plenty of times.
I'd also say if you ride a full face normally, jibbing is slightly less risky. You can get away with wearing a normal helmet. And what this a benefit is that you have more visibility because you don't have this bit here. You can see the bike a lot more.
And stuff. Nice, so that's a few basic setup tips, but we've got a few more modifications on our e-bikes that we're using for some of these harder tricks. So let's run through those. So these are two very different bikes. Tom is on his standard trail bike, which he uses for cross country, downhill, trail centres, you name it. Whereas today I'm on my Specialized Levo. Now this is a bike that's highly modified for the trick kind of style of riding. I think you've noticed a few mods already, Tom, haven't you?
I have. To start with, your cables are very tidy and the front one actually runs through there. What is the reason for that?
So the front brake runs through the fork steerer. I've lengthened my rear gear cables, my rear brake hose and my dropper seat post and taped them together. So that allows me to actually do a bar spin. So I can do like BMX style moves. That means tail whips, foot jam whips. As I mentioned, tail whips. I know you've ticked a few off your list.
Done the foot jam whip, the bar spin, but no tail whip.
No.
However, my current setup at the moment, if you used to do a bar spin, I'll show you what would happen.
So that's a standard bike, isn't it?
It is. The cables are all over the place. You'd get stuck there. Your dropper would probably start going up and you'd also be impaled by your handlebar.
Yeah, whereas my bars can spin up to 2 times round. So if I was lucky enough, maybe do a double bar spin or a double backflip tail whip. You never know.
Never know. Chris, are you missing a cog from your cassette there?
Actually, that is my neutral gear card. You must know about those, right?
For fakies and helping you to roll backwards, yes.
So a fakie is when you go backwards out of a move. So it's kind of like BMXy, but it's all about going backwards. Now with the neutral gear, actually allows my cranks to stay stationary when I'm going backwards, whereas versus a normal bike like what Tom is on, the actual cranks will drive backwards whilst the back wheel is going backwards. So it makes it a little bit harder. But with this hack, it's simply a spacer that goes onto your cassette body. You downshift onto it when you want to go backwards, and you simply upshift back up onto the cassette when you want to go forwards. It's a real cool one.
Right, do you want to show me the free coaster in action then, doing some tricks?
I'm gonna come down, manual down, 180 stoppy to free coaster or neutral gear backwards and whip back round. Now, one thing you might notice about my Levo is that it's actually running 27.5 wheels, so a 650B wheel front and rear. That's purely from when I come from like that dirt jump background. I quite like the smaller wheel when it comes to those aerial maneuvers. This bike is a standard trail bike in 29er is amazing, but I find for the trick stuff, I tend to prefer that smaller wheel. I don't know what you think, Tom.
I completely agree. I find that if I have a 29-inch wheel on a jibbing bike, it's way too big. The bike has more control over me than I have of it. And it's just way more manoeuvrable for if you want to start doing spins, tail whips, backflips, even bar spins. It will make a real big difference having the 27.5
and slightly
wheels.
Stronger as well, I think, on those smaller
Definitely,
wheels.
yeah. If you land sideways on a 29, you're more likely to bend the wheel than you are on a 27.5. So
yeah,
like you say, it comes from the dirt jump background, doesn't it, with 26s?
Definitely. I think 650B for the win when it comes to jibbing. And lastly, a few things to think about, I think, is your cockpit on your bike. I think you need to modify that so you're feeling comfortable. I think it needs to be strong as well. So for dirt jump and jibby style of stuff, I run a stiff, strong, sort of quite a high-rise handlebar and a short stem. It just makes it a bit more manoeuvrable, I think. I don't know what you do to your stuff on yours, bars.
So when I had this bike modded, one of the first things that I did was the control unit, the clock, I actually mounted just above the battery because it just got it out of the way, and it meant that, first of all, it wasn't going to get tangled. And it just prevented any damage if you did drop it. The other thing I quite like to do personally is I cut the bars down if I'm doing bar spins, because it just prevents them getting caught on your knees.
I know all about that.
Because it just, exactly, it just stops you and makes you crash. Yeah, like you say, shorter stem can just make the bike feel a bit smaller, so it makes that more manoeuvrable and makes it easier to jib.
Definitely. I think one last little thing as well is about the seat and the seat angle as well. I think for standard kind of trail riding, you kind of run it quite flat or maybe nose down. I think if you're doing like tricky style of riding, you can run it slightly nose up. It just means you can slam it out the way, but it's still there if you need to grab it for like tricks and things like that. So it's about getting that seat in the right position and the right angle too.
So there we have it. That is our insight into mountain bike jibbing. A few key pointers to remember before you go out: tyre pressures, suspension, setup, flat pedals, and most importantly, protective clothing.
Definitely, I agree with all of that. Give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the video. Let us know what you think about jibbing on your e-bike. Get involved in the comments box down below. And don't forget to subscribe to EMBN and find us on social media.